welcome. Thank you all for being here. My name is David Restainer with Douglas Elliman Real Estate here in South Florida, and we have a really great panel for you. We're gonna have a wonderful presentation. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Please meet Kimberly. Please, Liora. Please meet Jason. And thank you, that's very, very nice. Thank you all. And so you'll learn more about them in just a moment. We're gonna start the program off by hearing about luxury hospitality data. And we're gonna hear about the future of what's happening in the past, and we're gonna see really what's happening in the luxury hospitality space. And with that, I'd like to welcome Andrew Dickey from JLL, okay?
Thank you. Medelhan, Ricardo, Lucia, thank you for hosting us. Lucia told me I had 10 minutes to talk about the global luxury hotel market. That's pretty, in 10 minutes, it's pretty tight. And with the market down 400 points, it's been a rough day. I'm gonna start with the bad news, and then we'll finish with, very American style while we're here with some good news. The global hotel market is dynamic, right? We have, the beauty of hospitality is our rate changes every night. We're not an office building, we're not retail. We can't rent for a year, 5 years, 10 years. So the good news is with inflation, which changes all the time, we get to change our rate every night. So it's dynamic pricing. It also makes it the most risky asset class, right? The minute a 9/11 happens, as 2020 COVID, no one travels, the hotels have hundreds of employees, we lose money right away. So on that side, we have an emotional asset class, probably the most emotional asset class after residential. Nothing against our industrial folks and multifamily or office buildings, but they're less emotional. It's more cap rate driven. Hotels, particularly in the luxury space, are more emotionally driven. So we'll look at the pressures today. So you read the news, okay, real estate crisis in China. You'll read the headlines from the Wall Street Journal today. Are we gonna test China's real estate market too big to fail? It's one of the largest luxury hotel markets in the world. And we talk about inflation. Here in the US, we talk about, it's dynamic pricing, student loans. They start to get payment this month. The largest travelers in the world now are millennials, which is also the largest population. They passed the baby boomers as the largest population in the world. Now they also travel way more than anyone else in history. So we have a lot of headline news, not all bad, but it's tricky. Now in the luxury space, the beauty of the luxury space is that we are we're way ahead of it, right? If you think about it, we're hedged. Because in the luxury space, 70% of luxury travel is high net worth individuals. That segment, inflation or not, trouble in China, Asia, India, the US, they still travel, right? It's a matter of being a unique segment. And this is 2023, first half of the year, and it's US data because the US is the most liquid hospitality market in the world, right? We trade hotels like cars. We're down to 2010 levels in terms of transaction volume. So for the first half of the year, very rough. And you see it here as well, the deal size, about half of where we were 2 years ago. So you're looking at transactions, you're saying, okay, the value of a hotel per key is almost half where we are today than where we were less than 2 years ago. Who's buying hotels, right? Right now it's private equity. And I would tell you in the last 6 months, 9 months, it's high net worth families, individuals who are looking past short-term buying. They're looking, 10 years, 15 years, assets to hold forever. And then of course the luxury and select service is in demand. Why is that? So select service are hotels, right, without food and beverage. Their ticket size tends to be very small, sub $30 million. And so you can buy a bunch of them and it feels like a diversified portfolio versus, going all in on a $200, $300 million asset. then again, since the high net worths have made more money post 2020 than they ever have, they're also buying long term. So here's the good news. It's a little doom and gloom when you get into prices at, things being half off in the last 2 years. Here's the good news. If you look worldwide, luxury travel is at all new heights. And luxury market, and I think this is a key one, and gets into where we're gonna get into more residential part of it. Luxury hotels have become more of a larger share of total hotel volume in the world. So historically, we've been around 4 or 5%. Luxury hotels, of total hotels in the world, 4 or 5% have been luxury. Today, we're closer to 6 to 7%. And a lot of that is because of condo and residential. If you look here in downtown Miami as an example, we say anything that can go condo will go condo, right? There's how many buildings here out front, they said, hey, we would love to do a hotel. My response is, no, you don't, right? Because if you look at your return metrics, it takes you much longer to make your returns on a hotel than condominium. And if you're gonna build luxury condominium, there's a little trade-off. They're also looking for brands, right? Partner with a luxury lifestyle brand that everyone knows, help sell the residential. Each brand has their metric. Hey, we can sell more per square foot than you would as an independently non-branded residential project. And so as a result, we're seeing the growth in luxury supply, not necessarily of standalone hotels or resorts, but a lot of that's urban. A lot of that is condominium projects, really driving hotel development on the luxury space. Not to mention any names here, but if we look, we use Miami as an example because we're here. We've worked in a handful of luxury hotels where the developer will build it, make X on the residential component, maybe lose 20% on the hotel component when we sell it, right? And that was a good day because, hey, it was a loss leader to offset the residential sales. So I think globally, we're seeing high net worth value increase. We're seeing more luxury supply than we ever have, all the way back to 1983. And despite all the headwinds, economic, inflation, it all bodes well for the luxury hotel space. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That was great. Great, right? Well done. Thank you very much. That's a great presentation. We really appreciate that. It's comforting, astounding, amazing that there is this much luxury supply, and we all are lucky enough to live our days with in such great comfort, and that comfort that we've experienced on our travels are now coming into our living spaces. And so I'll do a better job of introducing the panel here, and we'll start with Kimberly Jackson, the managing director at AVROKO, and Kimberly comes to us most recently from New York, but I'm glad to have you come here and stay with us in Miami. Liora Haymann is the managing partner at OBM International, OBMI. And thank you very much for being with us here tonight too. And Jason Kaye is the Director of Development Operations at OKO Group. So big round of applause for the panelists again. We're very happy to have such a great group of peers here, and these three are going to be extremely honest with you all right now, and they're going to tell Andrew if he's correct with all this data. Do you agree? Is Andrew on target? Do you see something differently in your travels and in your businesses? And to start with you, Kimberly.
Actually, I don't. I actually think you are pretty much on target here. One of the things that I actually like to talk about, and I want to bring it to this panel right now, it's, we're talking about hospitality and how that's, being, you're comparing that to condo spaces. And so what are you seeing as far as hospitality in condo spaces? And how is hospitality being brought into our residence spaces? And I know that we're doing a lot with that because we are a hospitality firm at AVROKO. And we're doing a lot of multifamily and we're doing a lot of condo buildings, even though our bread and butter was really hotels and restaurants. And so I'm curious as to what everybody else is finding as well, as far as the hospitality kind of moving towards the more residential condo spaces.
Is it on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I think that, and we think the hospitality sector is going to grow. It has a great future. People are going to travel more and more. It's a global world today, so every place is accessible. People will want hotels. We're also talking earlier about people needing to meet because we work more online. We're more away from people in our daily work. We work from home, and so we are looking for other ways to meet, and traveling is one of those great ways to do that. We do see residential integrated into our hotel projects. We work a lot also on resort projects, not only urban. Actually, most of our projects are not so urban, and we always see residential incorporated. You like the numbers, for the business to work. It has to have the residences. It gives a lot of flexibility to the operator. They can add them to their room pool. For investors is also individual investors who are buying the residences. They can get some kind of income out of it if they put it into the hotel pool. So I think that's a trend to stay. The other trend we see in those residences is that compared to what we saw years ago, they're larger. We see more luxury trending to larger units generally. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So on the residential side, luxury is ubiquitous, I think, here in South Florida for sure. And we see that through the introduction of, we're talking about brands. Some of that is brand development and management. Some of it is just licensing. The idea of connecting with a brand and luxury and how you live, and the amenity package and offering. It's much more robust. And we talked about earlier, we're talking about culinary. And I think you see that through the introduction of restaurants taking a lead in terms of leading with the restaurant. We see projects now that are actually co-branding with luxury restaurant operators. So I think the whole idea of creating an environment where you're completely insulated and you have your whole life there where you don't need to leave your residence is how we're trending. And I think the interesting part is looking at hotel brands. Are we genuinely connecting with a hotel brand on the management side, or are we just kind of utilizing the name? Because I think there's an interesting paradox there where we're not necessarily genuine in terms of our connection with the brand. But the luxury piece is everywhere we look here in South Florida for sure.
Well, I was going to say that's the brand dilemma, right? That the brands on the hospitality side are having now, right? Is, a lot of them are saying, okay, we're not going to do just pure condo, because there's a few brands now that are saying, okay, we'll do pure condo, but it needs to have the amenities, right? The spa, the restaurant, and I think from the hospitality side, we've never been more inundated the last 2 years than we have prior. What brands are available? Who's left? I have to build a condo building. Who will do pure residential so I don't have to do necessarily just the hotel piece of it? And then I think, said differently, it'd be great to hear, are the brands, are these developers asking you to design and develop more like residential? The hotels that you're working on, to say, hey, make it feel, the one hotel here in Miami was that way, right? It feels very homey. It's got the wood environment. Are you getting requests to say, hey, make this more look residential than hotel, or vice versa?
I think we're getting a little bit of both, and it depends on which direction the ownership team leads. If they are leaning more towards hotel. They want to really just make it feel like a hotel, but make it feel hospitable, make sure it has all of the amenities. But if we're leaning more towards condotel or towards pure condo, yes, obviously they want that to feel a little bit more home-like. They do ask for more options, more customizations, and things like that towards the condotel and condo side than they would ever with just pure hotel side.
I'd say that what we see most is a call for consistency. You know, the brand has to translate from the hotel to the residences and has to be very clear and very visible to the buyer, to the user. So that whatever the style is, whether it's, you know, more homey or less homey, but it has to be consistent.
I was saying, you know, for me, I think going the route of stealth branding and having something that's really unique and genuine. So, you know, while I like connecting with a brand because it may work economically, I think in terms of creating legacy projects, I think finding ways to design and create projects that are non-branded. And I think we see that, and I think on the design side, I think the ladies would certainly appreciate the opportunity to work within those confines as opposed to being solely reliant upon a brand and brand standards. The ability to really think creatively and uniquely, I think, is where I know we're headed.
Yeah, Jason, this is a good opportunity to talk about, we're talking about luxury hospitality, right? And Jason and OKO Group are involved in a fantastic office building called 830 Brickell. I'm sure everyone's aware of this one. That's a brand, right? It's your brand, 830 Brickell, and you're doing a lot of things in an office building that haven't been seen before. Can you talk about your design choices, the programming of the building, the curating of the tenants, some of those things that where hospitality is applying to the office market?
Well, we're lucky. I mean, it's becoming a brand. We're not open yet, but we hope it's a brand that people feel fondly of and for. We're blessed in that from a timing perspective, we're fully leased up, and we have some of the finest tenants anywhere in the world. I think everyone's somewhat familiar with who they are. But I think what led to that, a little bit of, as I said, timing, but also the uniqueness. There hasn't been a product like what we're delivering in at least over a decade. We're incorporating, first and foremost, it's going to be uber exclusive, very safe, super high-end luxury services. We are bringing in 3 different culinary options for the building. So one that's going to be on the ground level, that's going to be a wonderful commercial restaurant operation. The other is going to be exclusive only for our tenants in our sky lobby on the 30th floor, which is going to be, again, world-class cuisine where you do not have to leave your environment on a day-to-day. And then there's going to be a 2-story rooftop restaurant as well, restaurant and bar overlooking the entire city. So that alone was an enormous attraction for our tenants. And then, of course, we're incorporating within that, we're bringing in world-class fitness, world-class lifestyle, spa, things of that nature, so that you really don't have to leave. You're in the hub of everything in Brickell, but you've got everything there at the highest of levels that you'd associate with ultimate luxury.
So, Liora, what is your take on the well-being, the luxury living, well-being, the luxury offerings and amenities that you're finding? They go above and beyond standard or a typical spa experience in the hospitality assets that you're creating?
Yeah, so wellness. Wellness is a big topic and it's expanding, and maybe we can see it from maybe 4, maybe 5 factors. One is wellness is not a spa and massages. Now we talk about whole wellness, meaning it's about physical, emotional, spiritual, and health. So it's a much larger concept and it involves your lifestyle as a whole. So a lot of services can be proposed that come out of this concept, and a lot more involvement of people into this wellness concept. Second is the bridging or crossover between Western and Eastern. So that brings another whole layer, and on top of it, indigenous practices become also very important. So wellness is also a cultural experience from that perspective and an exploration. The third layer is again, there's a crossover or in a trend to blend what we will call, I don't know what to call it, traditional wellness or recreational wellness with medical wellness. Medical wellness being based on science and high tech. And so that's a new trend that we see coming very strongly. I don't think it's totally positioned yet. There is explorations, and we can talk more about that, what we see in projects that we have done. We have one project that we designed and one that we're looking into now, and there's some challenges there. And so that's the crossover between, as I say, traditional wellness and medical, and that's number 3. And number 4 is the linkage that we can make between wellness and sustainability. People are really interested in sustainability, and if we look at whole wellness and we think about healthy eating and sourcing from local sources for our eating or using indigenous practices for wellness, it all links to sustainability. So that is also another story that can build up this wellness aspect. And so I think we're in the era of wellness, and you're seeing it in office buildings and hospitality, in residential. So it's really everywhere. Now the numbers have to make it, so that's a challenge sometimes. Can we offer all of these services? Are people willing to pay for it? How much do I have to do in order for this? It's an amenity that is wanted, required, and we have to make it really income producing for it to work in the long term.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So we've all touched on the 5 C's, right? And culture, cuisine, community experience, content, and customization. Kimberly, let's talk about customization a little bit. There's a famous designer from New York who came to Miami and built some hotels, Morris Lapidus, whose autobiography is "Too much is never enough." Is there such a thing as too much customization, or is too much never enough?
Well, I think that would be up to the people paying for it. I think with us, there's a little bit too much customization when it comes to design. We really want to be able to create an environment that will speak to the guest or the owner of the condo or whoever it might be. But at the same time, if we give too much fluidity, that concept, that design narrative gets lost. It gets lost in the shuffle. And so I think it's nice to have options. It's nice to give options. But we want to kind of tailor those options so it remains a luxury product, and you're not also tasking the owner or the guest with making too many choices, right? You just want to provide them a space. And
we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
So true, yeah, really.
I think one of the other things that we like to think about is, and it's part of customization, but it's also part of our design thinking, and it's called hospitable thinking, actually. And we talk about the environmental psychology of spaces and what people really want from their environment. And so this one touches on significance. People really want to feel significant. They want to have their choices. They want to be realized. They want to feel that the design is speaking to them and it's for them. And even in operations, what is being special for them. So that's one of the things we talk about. We also talk about safety. And safety can mean a lot of things. Safety can just mean having your favorite restaurant downstairs and having the safe environment of your routine, but it can speak to a lot of things as well. And then surprise, we want to bring an element of surprise something to someone, to somewhere at some point. You want to walk into a space and feel uplifted, right? And so I think when you get too much customization involved, you're tasking the person with something as opposed to providing the guest or the condo owner with an environment, a complete environment.
Yeah.
I'm huge on customization. I think there can't be, at least in the luxury condo world, I've seen my experience is there can't be enough of it. How you deliver it is the key. where you don't impose a standard in a way, you kind of just naturally have it organically flow. The benefit we have in the condo world, and you know this, David, is that we have the benefit of getting to know our client oftentimes well before they walk through the door. So if you're good at what you do or great at what you do, you have the time to build that rapport, build that relationship, and almost design the lifestyle around them. Don't have so much of that luxury or lead time in a hotel. So they're very different. And I will tell you, I don't care how gorgeous your product is. It could be $1 billion product. They always talk to you about the smallest little thing. It could be the littlest detail. It could be the way you package something in a media room, or the little gift you give them on balance. Whatever it is at that highest of level, and we're talking $15, $20 million units, they still appreciate the small things. So in my experience, there can never be too much of that.
It's interesting. I'm going to ask, because I want to continue this conversation actually. Do you find that in condotel as well? Or is this very specific to condo market where there is the luxury of time and personalization with a specific owner?
Well, condo hotel is by its nature condo, but I don't believe the model is as sustainable. We've seen the challenges here in our market where it's struggled. Let's put it mildly. But I think the same principle should apply. It shouldn't matter. They're still owners in the building, even if they're there for 6 months, 9 months, or they're putting their unit in the rental program for extended periods of time. It's harder by its nature, more transient people. So it's more difficult, but I think it's still achievable.
Yeah. I'll throw in a disruptive thought in the hospitality. I think it's different in the residential aspect, but we travel to be taken out of our box. Pico Iyer, who's a very renowned travel writer, he says we travel to get lost, and then we travel to find ourselves, right? And so excess customization or personalization means you are not moving out of your comfort zone. And when we travel, it's to discover. And so there has to be a customization, but in the hospitality experience itself, we want to take the guest through what we want to give them, this unique experience. And they may be challenged, and it may be a little bit uncomfortable in certain moments in an activity or here or there, but that's what we will remember, because that's where we went out of our comfort zone. So I'm throwing that in because there has to be customization in hospitality, but there's also the very intentional aspect of the story we're telling and the experience we want to deliver.
Yes, Liora, you had mentioned that once on one of our calls when you talked about the culture of the space, the local culture, the local story, the local history. Can you expand on that a little bit for the audience, just maybe a specific example of a property where you've done this?
Yeah, among the 5 C's that you mentioned, the first one is culture. And I read, culture, and for me, and for us as OBMI, there's more than culture, there's also site and place. Because when we travel to this particular destination. And what we want to convey to our guests through our design is the sense of place of that particular location, that landscape, the temperature, the views, maybe the materials, if it's dry, or the wild nature, whatever makes that a unique place. And in luxury destinations, the place itself is always marvelous, because otherwise it wouldn't be a luxury destination. So we as designers have the privilege, but also the responsibility to work in that place so that we add value to it and we don't take value out of something that's already valuable. It's a huge responsibility. And that's why when we design, we immerse ourselves in the culture, the history, the place, the materials, the views, whatever makes, and that we will use for our story. We will layer on top of it a story. That's what we want to convey through design. So it's an immersive design process in order to get our guest an immersive experience. And from our perspective, I also want to say, there are those 5 C's, but for us, there may be the 4 S's. And I heard you mention several S's, which was nice. For us, is storytelling, sense of place, self-discovery, sustainable, and lastly, a sensible operation. because this has to work.
Has to make money, correct. Good. Well, Kimberly, can you talk to us more about sustainability? Let's maybe transition more to like food. Talk about the sustainability when you're thinking about hospitality assets and the restaurants and the services that are provided there.
Yeah, I can talk about it through design and food. In design, and unfortunately, I don't have such positive news from my perspective, but I think we're trying as an industry, as the hospitality industry is trying to get to a sustainable place. There are efforts. I don't see as much effort as I would personally like to in both design and in food. I would love to see us really focus in on more sustainably in materials. Yes, there is definitely, we're seeing much more reclaimed wood or sustainably harvested forestry and things like that, but we're also still putting in a lot of vinyls and in things even in the luxury sector that just aren't sustainable. From wall coverings to flooring materials to things like that, alongside with our sustainable woods. And so there's efforts, but there needs to be more effort. And then I think the same thing with food. We do have locally sourced foods and things like that. We're seeing a lot of that in the luxury markets, and you see a lot of that in resorts. But at the same time, we also pile on a lot of shrimp, which is one of the most destructive things. And I'm an omnivore, by the way, so I'm a part of this. I'm not like preaching or anything.
Nothing
I'm
against
totally
the shrimp.
part of this. But we aren't doing our best efforts, put it that way. We are making strides, but there could be bigger steps and in both sides of the spectrum.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for that. And let's think about an investor's perspective on, sustainability as a business model. What's your take on this trend with the major food groups, the major food group and the other major food groups acquiring real estate assets within a project or and then entering into the business of branding? Any thoughts on that idea?
I think I know the project you're speaking of, just down the street from us. So I think it makes sense. I think, again, going back to the idea that you can live in an environment where you have access to wonderful food, to a great environment, but yet also finding a way to maintain your privacy. Because I think it's going to be challenging in that environment where you're bringing in, obviously, droves of people that love the brand. But I think the difference is that you have the commercial aspect of it, you have the restaurant operation, and then you're going to have within that particular environment that we're referring to, which is a project down the street, you're also going to have them managing all the internal F&B within the condominium. And so that's, I think, the benefit where you're not just buying a brand to sell it, you're actually having them deliver within the confines of the condominium, which should be unique and genuine. And also, I will tell you that not doing it in a way where they're just replicating what they've done elsewhere, because that's the biggest thing from a design standpoint. I don't need you to take something that's been done and designed just and plop it in the condominium. So it's being customized and designed in a way that works within the condo.
I was gonna just add, I mean, historically, if you look at hotel operations, it's been a rooms revenue focus, right? How do I drive the most revenue per room? And then F&B, food and beverage, is always a secondary concept. And I think it's been something that we've, over the last decade, come a really, far along, particularly with the brands, who said, you're right, we deliver, where we maximize values on the rooms revenue, people know what the brands are, et cetera, and we're bifurcating the food and beverage to a third party who does that very well. And I think that bifurcation, there was a time probably up to 10 years ago where I said, no, it has to be our restaurant, right? Or it has to be with this brand. And for years, it still is in the industry, in the hotel space, we call it a 3-meal, right? You gotta serve 3 meals. I mean, it's the most generic name ever, right? How many 3 meals do you have? You say, what? Who's gonna operate it? Who's gonna run it? So I think it's one of those where you talk about customization, the food and beverage in the hotel. We've come a long way And it hasn't been that long. It's probably been 10, 15 years of really bifurcating the food and beverage from the hotel operations.
From the standpoint of design, do you find that, are they leading the hotel developers with F&B? Because I see a lot of that where it's almost become an attraction to get you to the property as opposed to the reverse. Are you seeing that in terms of the design?
Yes, we see the restaurant, the F&B brand, an attractor to, yeah, especially in urban areas. That's a fact, and increasingly part of the revenue.
That's terrific. So let's talk a little bit about culture and community, a little bit more, Liora, maybe as it relates to the unique destinations and more luxury hospitality. That's what we're here for. So
yeah, so for us and as designers, and for you probably too, culture and history and heritage are extremely important. I'm seeing some of our slides around there going. As I said, we are very keen in capturing that and telling that story. And some of our projects, Royal Mansour, which is past there, you see it, is a new build project. And now it's already several years old, but it was at that time a new build, but totally representative of the local culture, the local building practices. And its intent was to showcase, this is in Morocco, showcase the Moroccan architecture, the Moroccan way of living with narrow streets. It follows like a village type of environment, the filtered light, the materials, the local craftsmanship. And so to really tell the story of Morocco. We work in other projects with heritage buildings that we're incorporating, or more recently in a hunting lodge in South Africa, irregular forms, curved shapes that blend into the land with roofs that are thatched roofs using the local material, incorporating trees into the actual architecture. So every project is unique to its site, into its culture and its materials, because we have to tell the culture of the place. That's why we travel, as I said before. So that's the identity of OBMI projects, is each one is completely different. You will not see a OBMI style. It's really the style that is relevant for that particular location and also represents the dream of that particular client, because luxury hospitality clients are dreamers and they have trophy projects. And so all of that has to be put in there too. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, and how do you do it without giving your secret sauce away? Without giving your secret sauce away, how do you do it? You know, how do you learn the Moroccan culture, the South African culture?
Spend time there, books, travel, people who have lived there. Our team is extremely global. We have, 24 different countries, 18 different languages. So all of that enriches the knowledge. And also the outsider eye, you know, it's good to have somebody who knows the culture intimately, but the outsider eye also discovers things that the internal eye takes for granted. So even the outsider eye is important to put in relevance that the local culture may not see.
Great. Kimberly, can you this is a little bit off track, but you can handle this. Can you tell us about a hospitality experience that you've had recently that really, really, knocked your socks off, surprised you, something that, something that you didn't see coming, but you will incorporate into your next assignment?
Oh, that's a really good one. It's funny because I haven't been traveling as much recently and haven't been going to visit as many, luxury properties recently. But I do remember going to this one hotel, not one hotel, but this one hotel that I spent some time in Tokyo, actually. And just walking into the room, the way that everything was presented was just impeccable. Down to, how the slippers were placed on the floor right by the door, and just all these little tiny moves that they did to make sure that you felt immediately welcome into the guest room. And I think that's where the surprise comes in, where you're like, wow, they really kind of turned it up a notch just for you. Oh, wait, it's a little bit of significance too, because I felt like they did it for me.
Yeah,
you know?
mentioned that significance.
Exactly.
That's something that you felt important, that they took care of every single detail for you and laid it out just right.
Exactly.
That's-
And so a
it's
lot
great.
of that is design, but some of that is just operational and
Thoughtfulness.
the brand thinking through the guest
Yeah.
experience and the guest journey.
Great
But
hospitality.
the brilliance is making you feel that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm the only one. Everyone wants to feel that way. And they executed it. And you turned around and the next people came in and it was
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
same deal.
Yeah.
Paying for the feeling,
Yes. Exactly.
right? And you'll come back for it.
Was it the product or the people? Because it's, for me, when you talk about the environment you were in, it was clearly that culture is very people driven, very hospitable, very deferential. And so getting that there is rather normal. It's unlikely you'd get that here.
It's interesting.
Much less likely that you'd get that here.
Yeah, I think it was both the product and the people, and it was the combination of the two, which actually is the fourth S that I didn't mention, which is synergy. And, taking all of the above and just making it the combined effort, making it more than its individual parts, bringing that feeling to the guest.
Okay, well, this has been great. So thank you all for the contribution, and thanks for this great group. It's 2013, and we just cannot have a talk without mentioning AI. It's been legislated. So can you have
2023.
20? What year are we?
2023.
Oh yeah.
That was AI.
Yeah.
That was ChatGPT talking to him.
Yeah, so
I heard some whispers. I just wasn't me or.
I'm ahead of my time, or a year behind, one or the other. We don't know. So anyway, let's talk about that because it's been legislated. Jason? What are your take? Is there a place that you see a useful purpose for AI in putting together
From a business
project?
perspective,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, it's huge because in the hotel world, in the condo world, everything is geared around obviously data. Right? So it's very data driven. So the more data, the more you can kind of drill down and cull down on that. Reservations networks, OTA, like the ability to keep your client in-house, not use OTAs and not use outside wholesalers in the hotel side is huge. So rewards, that's critical to the success. And that's why the largest brands in the world are continuing to scoop up smaller brands. The key on the luxury side from a client perspective, I think when people try to jam it down your throat, it's frustrating and it's annoying to tell you, how you need to live your life and the fact that you still can't talk to a human being. I'm going to dictate to you, right, how you're going to have your experience because it's efficient for me to the bottom line. It saves a lot on labor, but to me, it detracts from the quality of the experience. So I think finding that perfect blend of where you're going to use technology. I think it should be used on the business side, but the back end, I don't like necessarily imposing it on the client.
100% agreed on that. Any thoughts, Liora? What do you think?
Well, we are explorers and always looking for innovation. So we use artificial intelligence, or we use using to explore images in design early on. So we have a super expert, Drew Gilbert, in our company. He uses Midjourney, and in general, other designers use it to explore images, ideas, concepts that can be developed, can be expressed very quickly with different variations in discussions with the clients to establish a vision and a design direction. And a picture is 1,000 words. So getting that ahead of the game helps in the design process. Doing this at the beginning doesn't change the design process later. It doesn't take anything out of the design process, but it just helps us define what the vision is earlier on, so that the design and the refinement can go in the right direction without that many backs and forth. Yeah, we used to do the renderings at the end of the design. Then we did them at the beginning, but with a full project. Now we can do images without a project early on, just to explore this character, this sense of place, these ideas. So that we are doing, and I think it's going to stay, and it's going to develop further, and it's going to be a big impact in our industry. Another aspect that I think is worth mentioning is that we see a future in virtual reality and liminal spaces influencing hospitality design. For example, meeting rooms, conference rooms, they're bland, but they could be transformed if those walls were capable of taking virtual reality or any other type of
Augmented reality.
Yeah, and so we can create amazing immersive experiences for weddings, for events. And so how are we going to build these spaces so that they're capable to take that? We at OBMI have an innovation lab, and in the innovation lab we have explored what we call the room of the future. And so you're in your room, and it's an exploration, but it's explorations open ideas. You're in your room and the walls transform, and it can be happier, it can be more intimate, it has different moods, and so you can have different experiences or cater to a more personalized type of experience depending on how you treat your room. So I think all of those things are coming.
Fascinating. Thoughts? What do you think about this
AI,
this AI in 2002?
It is interesting because we're using it in the same way that you are. We're just starting to really explore it for those kind of pre-concept imagery. And I do think it does aid the design team because they're putting the script into Midjourney. It's not that we're just saying Midjourney just design something for us. Our designers are actually putting in exactly what they want to see. It's just the process of those images being almost immediate based on what their designers are thinking. And then, of course, as you mentioned, we'll still go through the design process. We'll still do all of that. But it's a boon for us. Yeah. For us, it's a tool. Tool to use.
Yeah, they say it's the magician, not the wand, right? It's a tool, but it seems to speed the process, at least get quicker feedback from the client as you move along with the design journey, right?
And I'll add another interesting thing that I think that happens in this process is because these tools allow to create shapes that are out of the box, they're unusual, they may even be unbuildable, but they capture the interest and the imagination of the developers, the builders, the clients, the users. It will push the building technology in that direction. It will push the design tools, Revit and everything we use, into the ability to transform that into a real project. It will push engineering in those directions. It may take 20 years, but imagination pushes reality.
We are going to now change gears and go global. We've got high-tech equipment in this room behind me, which is going to link us with Italy and Sonoma also. So we're going to bring in two very special guests to discuss the things that we've been talking about today from a very global perspective. And there it is. Italy. Are we Italy? It is Italy in Sonoma, right? I see casks of wine. Right? Or is that a backdrop? Douglas? Yeah, we're connecting now.
And the magic of technology, it's actually working. It may not for a long time, but it seems to be working. I'm getting several conversations simultaneously. I assume the question is, what am I doing in Italy? Yeah, I was very close. Okay, I'll try to be brief. When we were all well, let me start off by saying it's very mean to ask a senior citizen to be awake at 1:20 in the morning. Just to let you know. When we were all young men, me, Doug, and Jim, we met working at William Turnbull's office in San Francisco. For those who don't know, William Turnbull was a member of MLTW, which is Maryland Whitaker Wood, MLT with Turnbull and Whitaker, who became very famous during an iconic project called Sea Ranch. We all entered the firm at the same time, and this was a moment when the firm took off and tripled in size and met some really extraordinary projects. And none of us were even 30 years old at the time, and we assumed responsibilities that were way over our heads. But that, formed us, and we all became very close friends. And then over the course of the years, we all had different directions. And for a whole series of reasons, I was very curious about living in Europe. And I came to Italy, and I met a young lady here. And even though I tried to escape, she brought me back. So I found myself in Italy trying to work as an architect, and decided I should try opening my own office. At the same time, Jim Goying was starting his own office, and we decided we could do this together. Bud was off to another adventure, opening his own office with another partner, eventually joined a research firm called Google Evans, and in the last few years, we all came back together again and started collaborating once again. So it's a life story that took a weird twist.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Doug, how are you? Are you live? I think we just lost Doug again, but that's okay. Can you? You'll come back, I hope. We're very hospitable, and it's not 1 o'clock there. Thank you very much. How much is that informed? The fact that you're in Italy and your projects are in Italy, United States, you must travel extensively. Does that amount of travel inform the projects that you're working on? Or do you take most of your inspiration from the locality? How does that work for you?
Well, I travel less now than I used to, but the project that has brought us all together is a project here in Milan. I'm sorry, in Italy, in Piedmont, in the Langhe region, which is the image you see behind me. And the Langhe is 45 minutes away from Milan, so it's an area that we all have frequented often. It's a wonderful area if anybody hasn't visited yet, and especially for those who like to eat. And those visits obviously influenced a lot the proposals that we made and that were accepted. We had won a competition to do this project. So yes, lots of extensive traveling in Italy. As a matter of fact, later on today, I'm going to Ferrara, where the University of Ferrara is going to give us a prize for this project specifically.
Congratulations! That's very, very exciting, and thank you for that. So, what part of the Italian culture do you find the style, the creativity? What is the part of the Italian culture that inspires you the most, or what is it that you embrace the most? I heard you say food earlier. That would be inspirational to me, but is there another part that you find the most?
Yeah, before actually moving to Italy, I had visited, obviously, Italy and Europe in general quite a lot. But what I've discovered since living in Italy is that, sincerely, I don't think there's another country on earth that has a greater density of things to see of different periods in history all over the place. You have no idea what you are not seeing when you visit Italy. Most people go to Venice and Rome and Florence, but the whole country is extraordinarily dense in very specific kinds of experiences. And so that's really, I think, what qualifies Italy as a very unique place. I spent a lot of time. I used to be creative director for the Paris office of Studios Architecture, so I visited France quite a lot, and frankly, I adore the country. But it doesn't have the same incredible density of stuff that Italy has. Just to give you a few examples, a few miles away from Milan, there is what's considered the most beautiful piazza in the world. There are religious sort of sites all around Milan that are more incredible one than the other. And not of just one period, of just a whole series of periods. It's really incredible when you visit Italy, get it off of the beaten path, the things that you see. It's just amazing. I like music. I saw ZZ Top in a medieval castle with 300 people. It's a crazy experience. And the whole country's like that.
Yeah, that's a great statement to the history. Douglas, you've joined us. How are you? How are things in your Cava? Is live in the design district in Miami, and your face now is about 5 feet tall and the wall, and your adoring fans are looking at you and like to know what's happening in San Francisco, what you're up to, and just tell us a little bit about your perspective on the Cast Studios.
So the two studios we have in California are actually in Sonoma and Berkeley. I'm in San Francisco because unfortunately I'm getting ready to leave for the airport in about 15 minutes. So I can tell you more about what's happening in wine country up in California. It's sort of the opposite of what Andrré just described. So instead of hundreds and thousands of years of history, we have about 50 for when wine started taking off in that Sonoma Aborigines. But it's created an incredible place to come to experience wine. And I think it's sort of leaped over some of the other regions that are now catching back up with the importance of creating experiences for people when we come, not just to come taste the wine. So that's been really enjoyable watching that change over the last. I've been doing wine work since 1990, so it's a lot of fun to see the development and the changes that have come.
Okay, well, what has surprised you the most about working on this particular project, and can you tell us a little bit more about it specifically?
The one behind you? Which project are you speaking specifically? I'm sorry.
That you're working on right now, California, the one behind you, yeah.
So that was a couple years ago. That's Hannah Family Wines. And so the beauty of doing Wine Cave is one of the most sustainable venues that you can build, because you're really not impacting the landscape. You're taking advantage of natural cooling, and you're trying to keep a product at stable temperature for up to 2 or 3 years. And to do that without mechanical intervention is a really a great thing, and it's based upon historic building methods that were used hundreds of years ago. So it's really come back to fruition in the Napa and Sonoma area.
That's terrific. And do you plan on projects in Italy? Do you find yourself very, very comfortable where you are? What's your take there?
Well, so we are very fortunate as we're able to share resources. So we have our staff in California working on projects in Italy, and staff in Italy working on projects in California. I think that kind of cross-cultural experience has been wonderful for our staff. They've kind of meet their colleagues virtually and got to share their experiences with how to put buildings together, because they are in fact very different in the two different areas. So that's been a really good experience. I have been asking Andrré to definitely do a winery in Italy, so he's working on it.
Yes, I hear he's working late into.
Yeah, you were working late into it tonight.
This happened. Well, thank you very, very much, guys. We have a nice audience here who probably has some questions for you. Is that, shall we open this up for a couple of questions why not, right? Yeah, we have a few minutes to everyone, questions from the audience. Anyone? Roberto might have one. Okay. I think we have there's one. Okay, go ahead. Talk to us.
This interesting. You're going to talk a lot crap.
Hold. Yeah. 1 second. Let's start right here.
You were talking about the fusion between hospitality, the residential market, the condo market, and hotels, and it's very interesting, this blending of the worlds right now. What I wanted to add to that is we do the single family luxury home, and what's interesting to add to your mix of how it's all blended is we're finding that our clients want a hospitality feel in their private single family luxury residence. They want it to feel like a hotel. So I just thought that was an interesting mix to what you're debating between the hotel environment being informed by the residential market and then the condo residents being informed by the hotel industry.
Yes, a lot of resort-like projects, and there the residential that we are incorporating is single-family residential. It's not condominiums, obviously. So it's 1-2 stories, and it fits what you say. Yes.
Anyone else with some questions from the audience? You got some of the best and brightest minds in this audience and on this panel, and even checking in from the caves. So go for it. I think many in the room are wondering but are afraid to ask, what are you drinking now? Yeah, in California, or can you have good recommendations for us?
So I'm a fan of Sonoma, and so it's like Burgundy, so it's really well known for Chardonnay PM. So that's the direction I go in.
That 2023. Yes. Okay. Andrré, can you tell us what you're drinking in Italy tonight?
We had coffee. Right now, being fall, it's the hot season for the Casa di Langa, the hotel that we designed, and so it's Barolo and it's truffles and porcini. It's the peak season for culinary delights right now.
Yeah, go.
Because it's not, yeah. Douglas, question for you. We're seeing a lot of integration of food. We're saying into the hospitality space. Do you see that in the wine market blending into hotels where, maybe projects will have their own, we see it in the soaps, we see, the OSNE. Are we going to see that as well? You think in hospitality they'll have their own specific wines for brands or projects?
I think it's definitely possible. I think it's very desired by the wine industry. Fortunately, in California at least, as zoning prohibited, it's really interesting. I've traveled through a lot of wine regions, and there's always a blending of food and wine, and some of the greatest restaurants I get to in raw or at wineries. They love to do that here. Currently, they're not permitted, but yeah, I think it's coming. No question.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Is on a property that's 42 hectares worth of vineyards and orchards, and the Krause family, who come from Demray and are great lovers of Italy, also bought two wine labels, and wine is very, very present within all of the experience of the hotel.
Andrré, how large is the hotel? And can you describe it a little bit? Is this laid out throughout the vineyard, and is it in a large parcel? How does that work?
It's a very large property on a rather steep hill in the UNESCO heritage area. It's got beautiful views looking mostly southwest. The hotel is a strange story of a hotel that was started something like 15 years ago, and then built about halfway through, then abandoned because the venture didn't work out. The bank repossessed, and it sat there on a hill for 10 years, falling apart. And then this American family bought it up, organized the competition that we were lucky enough to win, and we did some very major surgery on the existing ruins, let's say. And now it's a 39 suite or room hotel with a restaurant, a health facility, and a beautiful landscape to enjoy. It's had surprising success. It's practically booked all the time, which makes all of us very happy. And we're talking about now feasibility studies for increasing its size to the maximum allowed, which is not that much more. Another maybe the equivalent of 20 rooms that we could add to the hotel. And they believe that they've created a brand, or that we've all together created a brand, when we're looking for other opportunities perhaps to repeat the adventure in other areas of Italy. We'll see.
We look forward to seeing that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate you sharing your time with us tonight. It was really, really fantastic. Thanks.
We'll see you all. Have a good evening. Yeah, you do. Whatever it is. Cheers.
Any closing thoughts from the panel, from Andrew, from anyone? Any closing thoughts that you could say to take us out on this discussion of hospitality, luxury hospitality in the world?
I'll start. We're just at a strange time in economic cycles. So hopefully for us, I want to say I'm thankful for you guys creating amazing, unique buildings, designing them, interiors for us, because I'm part of the financing and the exit strategy, right? I find you debt to build it and help you get out of it if you want. I think Jason's going to be surprised. He's building these unique projects. And he says, we're not doing brands, but you know what happens? Someone in some other place said, hey, have you seen the Una in Miami? We want to build something like that. And then brands derive from these creative projects that you guys create independently. So from my side, again, I'm on the capital market. So financing, exit strategy. Thank you guys for creating amazing projects for us to work on.
Yeah. Calls that. Thank you all. Yeah.